And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, June 25th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is GSMCPodcast.net. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is GSMCPodcast.net. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker at the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get into what we are going to discuss on the show today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about the news yesterday that Brandon Aiyuk requested a meeting with the 49ers. So they met yesterday. There's no further details on it, but I just wanted to get into that, give my thoughts, and where things are kind of at, because I know Brandon Aiyuk has been someone that we've talked about a lot this offseason, so want to talk about that to start off the show. Then in the second part of the show, we will continue our schedule breakdowns. Today we will be going over the Houston Texans schedule, a team that I'm very high on going into the 2024 season, so we'll talk about that. Then in the third part of the show, we'll talk about some comments made by Cam Newton on his podcast regarding the face of the NFL. So we'll get into that as well. Then in the fourth part of the show, we'll get into George Kittle, his comments on Brock Purdy, how Brock Purdy has looked so far here in the offseason. And I'll give my thoughts on that. And then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about Case Keenum, and his comments on Stephon Diggs. So a couple of 49ers topics, a couple of Texans topics here on the show for today. So that's the rundown. So let's get into the first topic, which is discussing Brandon Aiyuk meeting with the 49ers. So this news broke yesterday, and they had a meeting. There's no updates as of right now, and I was checking before I hopped on here today in case there was anything. But, so Aiyuk is reportedly met with the 49ers to discuss the current contract situation. The 49ers, they want to bring Aiyuk back. Now, if you remember, we talked about the social media post from last week where he was on FaceTime with Jayden Daniels, the rookie quarterback for the Commanders, and he basically said, they don't want me, and they, meaning the 49ers, and I know there was a clip of Adam Schefter out there, and he said how, the 49ers do want Aiyuk, just not at the price that he wants, which I said the same thing on the show here last week. Now, they were gearing up to give him a contract, and it looked like things were, it's kind of been back and forth this whole offseason, but what's made it tougher now is that all of these other wide receivers have gotten paid. Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins. All of these guys have gotten new deals, and Aiyuk wants that kind of money. But the 49ers, they may not be willing to give him such a big number. They want to give him a number that's closer to what they desire. And Aiyuk is seeking an extension around $30 million annually. Again, he's set to make a little over $14 million this current season under his fifth-year option. So that's where we're kind of at. And maybe, I saw that maybe he wanted this meeting just to clear the air and also maybe to try to get closer to a number that they could both agree upon. But right now there's no current updates. And I was listening to a little bit of, the Rich Eisen show. He had Daniel Jeremiah on. And, they were just kind of talking about, the receiving core for the Niners and how, it'd be very beneficial to have both Brandon Aiyuk and Ricky Pearsall in the same offense because, he kind of talked about Deebo Samuel and how Deebo Samuel is a dynamic playmaker, but not the best route runner. And that's where, Aiyuk is very valuable, and Pearsall as well. They're both very good route runners. And Deebo Samuel is a very versatile player. They line him up in the backfield. But that was just something that I thought was interesting. Because, yeah, I mean, right now it looks like Aiyuk might not be on the 49ers the way things are going. I mean, again, we're still, ways away from the start of the season, so things can change. But I said this too, and I'll probably talk about this again a little bit later when we go over Brock Purdy and the things George Kittle had to say about him. But Brandon Aiyuk is a main component of this offense. And, him and Brock Purdy really developed a strong connection last year. Aiyuk had a solid season. And you don't want to lose that because we saw how the 49ers offense was when some players went down. It wasn't the same. And losing a player like Aiyuk, although can he be replaced? I think the 49ers are a smart enough organization where they can figure it out. They drafted Ricky Pearsall, but is Ricky Pearsall going to, be productive right off the bat to start the season? We'll have to wait and see. So, that's just something that, and I've said that a lot, is, if you lose Aiyuk, it's going to hurt the offense. So you want to try to bring him back. But, again, if they can't bring him back and they got to end up trading him, then it is what it is at that point. So, but the 49ers do want to bring him back. It's just they don't want to bring him back at the price that he is asking for, which, that happens. So there's several different scenarios with this situation on how this is going to play out. I mean, they could end up giving him a long-term deal that he agrees upon. They can't come to an agreement. He holds out, and then they end up trading him. I mean, there's different things that can happen here, and we just got to keep playing the waiting game. And this is the last week before, I go away, so maybe something happens while I'm away. I'm hoping something does, so it gives us something else to talk about. But these updates, these social media posts, and now a meeting. Well, they're really, at least when I was checking, there wasn't any updates on what happened in this meeting. Did he walk away with it? Well, I think if he would have walked away with the contract, we would have heard about it by now. But this is going to continue as we get closer to the regular season, and we'll see what happens. But the way it is right now, I'm leaning towards he might end up getting traded before the season and just not playing for the 49ers. That's at least the way it looks. Now, that doesn't mean that that's going to happen, but that's just the way it is at the moment. And like I said, the 49ers, they do want him back, but ultimately, if it's going to cost them too much, then they might have to move off of him. And I did see something that, I saw a couple things. One, I did discuss this on a previous show, but the 49ers were taking calls on Aiyuk and Deebo. One of those teams, I think, I saw that was the Commanders, which was interesting. And then the other thing, too, is that Aiyuk wants to his number one priority is I want to stay with the 49ers, but he did say that he's fine with going somewhere else if that means, he's going to get paid. So that's another little thing that I saw as well. But yeah, it's just, the 49ers is one of the best spots to be in. There's very few teams that are better than this team right now. One of them is the team that won the Super Bowl, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs. But, why would you... again, you want to get paid. But, you go somewhere else, you might not have an opportunity to get back to the Super Bowl, depending on where you go. Because like I said, there's very few teams that are better than the 49ers. Like I said, the Chiefs, you could throw the Ravens in there as well, because, the Ravens, they dominated against the 49ers on Christmas. But, it's a different year now. But And the Lions almost beat them, but I'd probably, right now I still rank the 49ers as the top team in the NFC. But yeah, there's very few teams that are better than the Niners. So yeah, you can go and get your money, but you might not be in the best situation. Depends on where you go. So again, we just got to keep playing the waiting game here. It's just, but this was a small thing that happened. I mean, nothing has happened at the moment, so we just got to continue to play that waiting game until something does actually happen. But as of right now, there's no news. I was trying to see if there was maybe some more details on what could have happened with this meeting, but I didn't really seem to find anything right before I went live here today. So just gotta keep playing the waiting game. So, but hopefully they could try to meet in the middle, because like I said, Aiyuk is a very important part of this offense, and they end up losing him. It's gonna be tough on the 49ers. At least I think in the early going. You got to get Pearsall acclimated. You still got Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, of course, and George Kittle, but Aiyuk's a big part of what they do, and you lose that, and that's definitely going to hurt your offense to an extent. So we'll have to wait and see, but let me know what you guys think about the situation here. Again, I've probably said this, but do you guys think that he will stay with the 49ers, they'll get a long-term deal agreed upon, or is he going elsewhere and getting paid elsewhere before the 2024 season? Let me know in the comments, because it's different than the T. Higgins situation, because T. Higgins signed the franchise tag. He's at least going to play under that for the 2024 season, but after that, we'll see. Probably going to end up going elsewhere. But with this, it seems like, it's either he's playing with the 49ers in 2024, Brandon Aiyuk, or he's playing elsewhere in 2024. At least that's what it seems to me. So, but let me know what you guys think about the Brandon Aiyuk situation. So we're going to take our first break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll go over the Houston Texans schedule. I'll give you my early win-loss predictions for them. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.